Hey everybody, welcome back to Work in Progress with the Reno Collective. This is our weekly live show about work, life, and everything in between from Reno Collective Coworking. And this week we're super stoked to have some longtime friends and the co-founders of Tonic Audio Labs with us, Allison Clift-Jennings and Ethan Clift. So welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks.
So we're going to be digging in today into their new project, which is a product called Lumos that actually helps musicians to write and produce new songs. So before we dive in, I figured we can just do some quick intros, just kind of background, and we'll get into kind of how you guys came up with the idea and also what that means. I think the title of this that we've been putting out has a lot to do with putting out a product on Kickstarter, but I know that there's a lot more that goes into even thinking about getting into Kickstarter, all the way from what does the product do, who's it for, all of that. So yeah, either one of you that would like to go first.
You first.
Yeah. Okay. So let's see. So our background, we've both done startups over the years. Allison's more tech on the technology side, so she was a full stack developer for years. Then became the CEO of a hardware company called Filament. So then kind of went back to went to more of a building the team, making sure that they have money sort of role. And so when Filament was wrapping up this spring or early, I would say like the end of winter, Allison and I had gotten together. I mean, we're married. We've been married for like 13 years, but we had gotten together and been like, like what do we want for like the next phase of our lives? Like, what do we want that to look like? And for us, that meant working together again. So about like 10 years ago or so, Allison had started a company before we were married. Web development, web hosting before like web hosting was like a commodity. And so she and I worked together where I did sales for large web development projects, and then she did the everything technology oriented, basically. So we really enjoyed working together. We felt like we really complemented each other, and we had this like sort of magic way of like moving together super fast, like just decisions made almost like without even talking. It was like we were always on the same page, it seemed like. And so we really wanted to get back to that and sort of go back to sort of a smaller model with fewer employees to start and just build something that we thought was worth building. So my background, I went to school in New York and graduated from Columbia with a psychology degree. So tech was never on my radar. In fact, I fumbled around like with a lot of different careers, or like career paths that I was trying out. And I ended up, I didn't go into tech until I actually married Allie and started doing sales for her web development company. And it really like made me come alive. Like I just loved sales, loved technology, because like there's so many problems that are out there to solve, and the technology sector and startups in general, like has a way of just solving those problems in really novel ways and very, very, very quickly. Like Peter Thiel's book 0 to 1, right? Like taking something that exists and changing it so fundamentally that it just is, infinitely better, essentially. So that's my background. Allie, what about your background?
Yeah, as Ethan said, we've been working together a long time. So we've been, over a decade now. We've worked on stuff and then haven't worked on stuff. But for me, I've been in the technology industry for, I think it's like 23 years now, I think. I started when I was 19, so 24 years, showing my age. Started a web development company way back when I was young, back when you had to pay people to host web pages. We had a web hosting company, a web development company, and now you can just, host them anywhere you want for free, basically. But back then you had to pay for it, and you had to pay for email. There was no Gmail back then. And so we thought it'd be a good idea when I was working in ISP to leave that company and start our own company. And so did a lot of web work. I didn't do too much systems work back then. Really kind of went deep into the side of web application development and e-commerce and things like that. Worked out of the state and worked also in Reno on different companies. I would usually try to start a startup and then it would fail or not do too well. And then I would go and get a job and save up my savings again. And then I would try another startup and then it would fail. And I would go and save money again. So it was kind of this pattern that I had. But more recently, I did get into hardware and really enjoyed that a lot. There's something very wonderful about holding the thing that you built rather than with software, you don't really get to do that. And something really magical about being able to do it. But it also is very difficult and very risky because hardware, for lots of reasons we can get into, can be difficult because you can't just push a software change if you have a fault in your hardware. You have supply chain issues, you have certification issues, you have, when you're dealing with physical atoms instead of just bits, things can get kind of wonky. So as Ethan said, I was running a startup previous to this called Filament that was, on kind of a fast track of trying to build a large number of devices for an enterprise audience. It was fairly risky, as most startups can go, and we did all right. We didn't do great, but we didn't do terrible. And so it's one of those points where we had raised a lot of money, and we decided that we didn't want to, continue to sell the farm, if you will. It gets harder and harder to raise money every additional round, and there's a point where you could probably put something together, but there's a point where you're like, this isn't working out. The wrong timing or something. So we had that coming to truth moment late last year, and that's when, as Ethan said, we decided, what do we want to do together? Again, because we really enjoyed working together about a decade ago and really wanted to do it again, and so it's kind of a neat, new start. So strangely enough, we actually worked on or had mentally prepared for being working from home, being kind of holed up, and then the quarantine hit, and we were somewhat already planning on doing that. So it's kind of a weird start of this year because we didn't have to hole up against our own will. We kind of had planned that from late last year, and then it so happened that the world kind of went to a mess and back. But yeah, it's been kind of a fun ride the whole way through. So.
And you guys both
something to say too.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, this is Evangeline. She's our team mascot.
She also wants to introduce herself.
Yeah, our latest startup.
Yeah, nice.
And you guys both have different kinds of backgrounds. Like what backgrounds and experience do you guys have in music? And I guess we'll lead in from that to, whether it's for fun, gigs, all that kind of thing and stuff.
Yeah, so, well, I think what is interesting about our backgrounds is that I never was a musician growing up. In fact, I was like one of those people who, like, I would listen to the same songs over and over again. Like, I didn't even really branch out to obscure music or anything like that. Like, I had, five acts, or artists on replay. So, I never learned an instrument. I was a total jock. I went to school I played soccer in college, and I just wasn't never thought I was musically inclined. And then Allie, I'll let her tell you about her music experiences, but when we came together, we ended up starting sort of like a Portishead-esque synth, what would you call it? Synth pop duo sort of thing.
Awesome.
Dark and moody, yeah. And it was really fun because actually we ended up, true to Allie's nature of like hacking on electronics, we ended up using our Wii controllers, like the nunchucks. And she was able to hack it so that I could actually, because I did all the vocal stuff. So during a live show, I could use this nunchuck to change the attack on my voice. Mm-hmm. Different, how would you describe what it did?
It could increase or decrease effects on your voice. And so as you sing certain parts, you could just twist it and it would make it sound really echoey.
Oh,
yeah. So it was super fun because in real time, I was changing my voice for live shows. So it was super fun. So I got really I really enjoyed that process and tracking all of our songs and the recording process and stuff, because we've always had a music studio in our house because Allie's always been a musician. But I was just never very technical and never, you know, like it always kind of overwhelmed me. Looking at DAWs, which are like digital audio workspaces, which is like the intensity of like learning Photoshop or Illustrator like from scratch, but like in a recording sort of, you know, recording music sort of sector. So anyways, so we did that, you know, we played a live show and it was like super fun. We recorded, I think 5 songs. And then a couple years later, like I just got this like inkling that like I really wanted to, I had sold the company I was working on that was working with like underserved like founders, basically like female founders. And I was looking for something else to work on. And I really like to go after things that are like, have some sort of social good component. So like, I have to be passionate about an idea. Like I can't just start a company to sell widgets, you know, or like, that's just not me. And so one of the things I was really passionate about is that like, I love seeing people make money. Like I love seeing people be able to do what they love doing and make a living at it. So I had started Parlor Shows, which was, you know, a startup that basically we hosted, we had a marketplace that we were setting up homeowners who wanted to have living room house concerts with artists. And so I did that for a couple of years. And at one point it was very clear that I either needed to raise money and grow it, you know, basically scale it, because like what we were doing per show, we just were making there wasn't a lot of margin there. So the musicians were making a ton of money, which was awesome. It was such a game changer for them. But as a company, it wasn't sustainable. You know, the business model just was not sustainable. So, and around that time, my competitor, which was called So Far Sounds, actually struck up a partnership with Airbnb. And that was kind of the nail in the coffin for me. I was just like, if I don't raise, and if So Far Sounds has already kind of beat me to the punch as far as, you know, striking a deal with Airbnb, I should move on and do something else. So
I was gonna say it sounds very much like Airbnb for house shows, and I remember going to a few of those. But you guys also have a habit of creating things that help people create things and make money, right? Like Checklet, way back in the day, was tools for Etsy sellers, and so there's you know, creators and tech, which is great.
I never really thought of it that way. Right.
Yes.
I gotta do my homework, right? I remember those days.
We did have a company for a little while making Etsy apps for Etsy sellers to make them more efficient. So we love to see like people creating things that aren't, I think what our thing is that we like to make money. We like to help people make money, but we also really appreciate creators because we love to create things ourselves. But we're not great at it, right? Like we're not great musicians, but there are great musicians and we know that they exist and we love them for that, you know? So we are like, what can we bring to the table? And what we bring to the table is sort of combining technology and sort of novel business model solutions to help these guys actually survive and make a living.
Yeah, so tell us, I'm thinking it's about the size of an iPhone, I think, if I remember correctly, the specs that I saw online, actual Lumos, right?
Mm-hmm. It's a little bit bigger, so it's more like a Nintendo Switch.
Okay. Yeah. So can you take us through just like a quick little, what exactly? So it helps songwriters or helps musicians finish writing, get started writing, the production, all of those things.
Yes. So let's hear. So I would like to hear. I'm always
elevator pitch time. Elevator pitch.
Yeah, I know, right?
I'll pitch it. Yeah, let's hear it.
I'm kind of off my pitch game because I've been spending so much time with hardware. So let's see. So the entire goal of the product Lumos is to help, as you said, simply help songwriters or people who are have affinity towards songwriting or musicians to just finish more songs. And it turns out that seems kind of like a surfacey or kind of a simplistic kind of problem to be solved. But as we started to talk to musicians and as we started you think about ourselves, we're not professional musicians. I enjoy doing it as a hobby. I think a hobby is probably the right word. In fact, I'm inspired by like Scandinavian cultures. Iceland is the one that comes to mind, where they often will refer to themselves or introduce themselves as, hi, my name is so-and-so, and I'm a plumber and a painter, or I'm a poet and a carpenter, right? Like they treat their creative outlets as important as their professions, which I think is really cool. I think that we should probably adopt a lot of that in the more westernized, or at least in the US side of things, because so many people define themselves by their work, and we're more than that, right? At least I like to think we are. So the goal of this product is to help those creatives who are drawn to music or to musical, writing of music, to finish more of the things they start. Because it turns out that just like any creative endeavor, it's this kind of mix of passion and inspiration, and then a lot of hard work and monotony. Anyone who paints or dances or writes would, that there's reasons why there's a, national writing, NaNoWriMo, for the novels and things like that, to try to write more, and you try to write every day just to get yourself in the rhythm. Musicians have the same problem. So this product is really developed to help them break through writer's block, to help them have encouragement through collaboration with other people, and then also to help inspire them when they don't have collaborators by using some latest technology within the machine learning world, and actually helping to pull some of the work that's been happening in machine learning and artificial intelligence to help basically just break through being stuck in certain spots. And so we kind of have three modes. There's the device that says, give it an idea, human gives it an idea, the writer, and then you can continue it just by old school, just like you would write a song. You can keep adding to it and building up your song, or you can request help from a friend, kind of like, like the game show. It's like that too. So you actually have it's very collaborative. You've got a list of collaborators in there, and you can just drag them onto a part of the song, and then the other person will get the notification saying, hey, help me on the chorus of this song. They'll get the whole song. They can actually add pieces to the chorus part, and then they'll show back up in the original Lumos, and you can kind of browse through them and listen to them in context and see, oh yeah, that's actually a really good idea. And then the third one is actually, instead of a person, you can drag the Lumos AI piece into that same part and be like, help me write this chorus. And it will take what you've written and actually build upon it or explore, musically speaking and musically appropriate based on the tempo and the style of the song, to help maybe write another part of the song that you couldn't have written, or at least give you a start. The device never writes on its own. It always has to be inspired or nudged by you for it to actually give you ideas back. So there's no sort of make me a song, you push a button, and then it comes out. There are companies that are trying to do that, for automatic music and soundtracks for games and things like that, and podcasts, and that's cool. That's a different market. That's not us. That's called generative music. We're doing assisted music writing. So it's an exciting project. So that's really kind of the gist of it, is we kind of have these different pieces that we're putting together. It's basically an Android or tablet class device, quad core processor, touchscreen, has some buttons and dials to kind of feel more tactile, like an actual musical instrument, like a synthesizer or a keyboard. But it really is a pretty sophisticated device. And then we're also using a special Google chip that is specific for machine learning called a Tensor Processing Unit, TPU. And it's a little edge TPU, they call it, that we plug inside of it, and it makes some of that machine learning stuff happen much, much, much faster than it would without that device. So it really does have some hardware acceleration just for that, which I, as a nerd, am really excited about, because that opens up a lot of possibilities for what we want to try to do.
Right.
I almost wonder, does that mean that, you might be able to help people learn a little bit too? Because we have music theory and all these things that obviously it's probably going to be informed a little bit by that.
Absolutely.
Where you might be able to start something, but you don't know how to finish it. And
that's right.
You can
that's
see
a large part. That's right. That's
cool.
A large part of why people get stuck, is because they don't know. It happens to me. There's a chord I can hear in my head of it should go here, but I have no idea what it is. And I don't have enough theory expertise to be that's a diminished seventh. I don't know. I have no idea. This would help kind of explore what could work and what shouldn't work. Music theory, just like any creative aspect, there's no right or wrong. They're like guidelines, right? People often talk about chords of songs as being vocabulary. When should I use a seventh chord? When I should use a minor chord? It's like, well, when you want to use a bigger word when you're writing a sentence, or if you want to write a sadder word, right? Like you can pull from them. There's never a rule that says you can't use that word. In fact, you can use a chord that's not in a key,
Right.
which would be like using a word that's not in your language, but people still understand it. Like we do this all the time with Spanglish and stuff, right? So you can still fake it and people get it, but if you did it a lot, then it might be confusing. So it's weird to try to bridge this very qualitative, creative concept of music creation with the technical aspects of writing software and hardware. Like they're very like smashing into each other, which sometimes gives me a coronary, but it's a lot of fun too. It's exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny because like we have like different user stories, and like I'm one user story, she's another, right? Because like I have no music theory, she doesn't have very much music theory either, but she has a lot of practical, like she's played in bands, she has learned a couple of instruments, right? So for me, like I really need a lot of help in finishing melodies and things like that, but lyrically, I write songs a lot faster than she does, and I can figure that part out. But the like creating chords that could go along with the lyrics, all that stuff is really hard for me. So I'm excited to use our product just to be able to actually do more parts of the song, like complete more parts of the song, not just depend on another person in my band or something like that. So it really, I'm excited because it really like helps different user types, right? Like different, so like we talk about sort of the customer acquisition for these first 1,400 devices, which is kind of our goal for this Kickstarter. And so one of the things that I've been testing, and this is through like Facebook ads and just like playing with landing pages and different ways of capturing who our real audiences, our true audiences, and who are these early adopters that we think will purchase this device, sight unseen, of course, right? On Kickstarter nonetheless. So like they have to wait a few months for it to be delivered, right? So what's becoming clearer and clearer is that there is a certain user case that we have that is sort of the Ally user case, but we named this person Alex in our slide deck. But this person's like really technical. They feel really, really comfortable making their way around a digital audio workspace. They love, like the tracking aspects and the recording aspects of music because it's very logical and it's sequential and they really grok it really well. But they get so almost left-brained about the process that they don't allow their right brain to kind of do that roaming and that creative sort of exploration that needs to happen in order for them to write the other parts of the songs, right? And so those folks are out there and they're they oftentimes end up either not finishing songs and in their home studios, right? Digging through a DAW, like digging through different drum patches or synth patches and like just, spending hours, right? Tinkering, but never finishing a song. Or the ones that are really, really driven to really complete usually find collaborators, right? Like they find them maybe on Discord or on Reddit or, even Craigslist back in the day, right? You'd find somebody to play in a band with. And so this really is, for those folks, this is really like having that collaborator, that pocket collaborator that you can take with you and actually finish songs. Like that's our goal. At the end of the day, it's like helping people to feel accomplished and feel like they can finish a song. And I think that's what really drives people to in a way to say things like, I'm not a musician, right? Because they haven't finished songs or they haven't written songs or they end up tinkering so much that they don't finish a song or they end up tinkering and then giving up. So then they just do cover songs. So then that's where you get like the person's just like riffing on their guitar after work for an hour and they're like, okay, well, I'll just do this Coldplay song or, you know,
It becomes an
things
identity
like that.
thing, right? Like I'm only a musician when I write my own music, or
Mm,
same with being a
right.
writer, an author, if you've written a
Right.
book or something like that.
Yes.
But
Yes,
what I like about
exactly.
the form factor is that, you know, most of these DAWs and things, you have to like sit in front of a computer. And I like the idea that you can just like kind of walk around the house and sit on the couch and play around with it and just
Mm.
kind of fiddle with it and have fun with it, which sounds fun.
Yeah, you know, we had major battles, discussions, I should say, with ourselves and then with advisors around whether or not this should be software only. We had some advisors who were like, "This absolutely should be software only. What are you guys crazy doing hardware?" And you know, we really tried to agree. Like, I mean, I went through the mental, you know, product development process of saying, okay, what if we just did software? What would it look like? And, okay, first of all, it's much easier. You know, I mean, hardware stuff you have to deal with. But like you said, Colin, you've got this problem where you're like, you have to be in front of a computer or at least a mobile device. And then you're back to like, oh, I got a Facebook notification. Oh,
Yeah.
Instagram just popped up. And so it's
Yeah.
like you kind of get pulled out of your flow again. We're trying to get people in flow and trying to get them away from distractions and to assume that they should use a computer or a mobile device to actually do this is almost, it's almost like the exact wrong thing to do, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we really did
Right.
kind of try to talk ourselves out of hardware, but at the end of the day, for exactly the reasons you said, we decided we'll stick with it.
Have you guys seen there's like a digital typewriter specifically for writing that is
No.
distraction free? I'll send it to you
Yeah.
guys,
That
but
sounds amazing.
yeah, I've
Nice.
been getting ads for it, and it's like it's for writers to write without
Right.
all the crap that comes on your laptop, so that you aren't
Exactly.
distracted.
That's perfect.
So I'll definitely send
You
that
like
to
take it
you
with
guys.
you to the cabin when you go to
Yeah.
write, sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not quite the same as you know digging out the actual typewriter, but at least you
Yeah.
don't
Right.
have to have the
Sore fingers either.
Right.
Take those
the
big
ink for
keys.
fixing those mistakes and things. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
so I have a couple questions from some people who are watching, but I also, before we get there, real quick, since we try to keep the show about 30 minutes, it could be good with your time too, is I guess what are you guys' thoughts around Kickstarter, and why are you guys planning on going Kickstarter route? It sounds like 1,400 or so devices is the goal, and just kind of what's been your experience with crowdfunding, and why are you going that route?
Yeah, so Allie did crowdfund that film. The film used to be called Pinocchio, and so she did some
Right.
crowdfunded that, right? So and she raised about 105K, right? That was on Indiegogo like 7 or 8 years ago now. So lots actually changed. It's crazy. There's like an entire niche now, you know, like a whole vertical around like economy around crowdfunding now. So so things that like you know, you used to be able to just put up a video and it could look like, the more like garage startup-y it looked, the better, you know. And now it's almost like all the videos are kind of streamlined. They kind of all look the same and have sort of a fresh modern look. And you almost, if you don't have that kind of look, you're risking, or my fear, and we talk about this a lot, is like, my fear is that we risk looking unprofessional or looking like we're not serious. But 7 or 8 years ago, like, you could do that and it actually made you look, you know, more serious in some ways.
Yeah.
I think the crowdfunding really just is focused on, I mean, it does front fund you. You know, you get the money up front in order to actually make a large run. So for hardware, it actually makes a lot of sense to do crowdfunding. If it was software or something else, we probably wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
No,
Well, and that's the thing, is that you can really calculate exactly, like with software, it's hard, I think, to calculate exactly how much you need. With hardware, you're buying components and hardware. So we really have a great idea. Like, we know our BOM cost, which is like how much it's cost us to, you know, for the components, for the everything, shipping.
To produce one, right.
Yeah. And so that actually, that makes it a really good fit for crowdfunding. It's like, okay, we need this much money to, you know, and then we need this much more money to have a runway to keep, you know, to keep growing this. And crowdfunding is changed a lot in that, like, now also you can continue, like, one strategy is to start on Kickstarter and say do a 30-day campaign, and then move over like the very next day to Indiegogo on demand, and do another like 60-day sort of pre-sale. And so, yeah, so there's so much to crowdfunding now. Yeah, it just was a natural fit for hardware. We probably wouldn't have done it with software if we were just building a software product. And yeah, and I think Kickstarter just has a huge audience too, so a built-in audience.
Yeah, you have a lot of like people who like designer type toys and tech
early
and
adopters.
Yes.
niche adopters.
Yeah.
Rachel was making fun of one of the things that I backed on Kickstarter earlier, so you know, it happens.
Yeah.
It's
And most, so like 50% of Kickstarter or people on Kickstarter have already supported something on Kickstarter.
Right. Yeah.
They're repeat offenders.
They're repeat offenders of this very thing.
Yeah.
Buying more things that we don't know that we need yet.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, they target right back.
Oh,
and then, well, it's interesting because what I was laughing at a product, and then Colin made me aware that he had actually backed it, and I was like, oh, okay, well, there you go. But it's what you talked about, where you have removing, like having Lumos as this separate hardware from your device, right? So you can do everything on your phone, you can do everything on your computer. Do you see more of those things happening where people are saying, hey, actually, if you have this device, I have your undivided attention? Are you seeing that in more products in your, like in the world of technology?
Yeah, partially because the hardware to make those kind of standalone but still connected devices has become so approachable and affordable because of the mobile phone, you know. Chris Anderson calls it the peace dividends of the smartphone wars, right? That's why we have sensors that are so cheap. And we have these things like Raspberry Pi, these computers that are $30, because it drove the price down so much because so many people bought phones, right? 7 million mobile phones every day. It's crazy. That's just Samsung. So yes, I do think we're gonna move more towards that, specifically for things that are deep focus or deep flow, like the typewriter example.
Yeah.
I think that's where you'll see them first. We're biased, of course, but I think that you'll see it in those areas first.
That's awesome.
Well, the other, I mean, just from our own experience, like I watched Ali collect gear over the years, right? Like it's one more synthesizer or one more, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's the specialization, right? Like it's very good at one thing.
Yeah, you can justify it all day. Exactly.
I need this.
Yes. But oddly enough, it never helps you finish more songs.
Yeah.
I thought for sure that would be the one.
That would be the one. We need something else. We need another feature.
That is, I've got, every time I see, you know, art supplies for sale and, oh, here's a new pen. And I'm just like, woo, it's going to make the art, it's going to make itself.
Yes, exactly, Rachel. You nailed it.
One day, a whole portfolio.
So when will people be able to try to get their hands on this with the Kickstarter?
We will be having Kickstarter kick off in February. Awesome. So we've got a ton of work to do still, but mid-February, the Kickstarter will start. You can go to our website and fill out, you know, put their email in. We don't sell or share, of course, but we will message people when the crowdfunding is about to start so they have a reminder. And it'll run for 30 days. And then if they miss it, like Ethan said, we'll do the post campaign pre-sale. Go. So it'll be available for 160 days.
Yeah, and the way that we're doing it also, and how this just shows how much Kickstarter's changed. So we will only have one SKU, right? We have one device. That's it. That's all we're selling. And we won't be giving out like any like T-shirts or anything like that. So the way we're gonna do it is that like basically we'll have a certain number allotted number of devices that we'll be selling at like 55% off of retail. And then we'll sell those the first week, and then the second week it'll be a 40% off, and then it'll just get closer and closer to retail price as we wrap up the campaign. So it always benefits you, of course, to get in early and to get on our website. Like go to Tonic Audio Labs, sign up to be on our mailing list, and we'll give you guys alerts. And you can about a month ahead of the campaign. So I would say like mid-January or early January. We should have our preview campaign up on Kickstarter, and that will allow you to go to Kickstarter and you can put your email address in, and they'll actually send you alerts as well to let you know when our campaign's launching. But yeah, we're super excited, and I think we didn't touch on just like how sexy this hardware is, but Ali is very, very like very much a perfectionist about, you know, the dials that we choose and the buttons and things like that. And so like one feature that I think is really cool that she didn't mention is that like, so this device has like four dials, like one on each corner of this rectangular device, right? And then there's on the bottom two, they actually double, not just as like kind of knobs, and buttons, but they also double as like, you can actually like when you're putting in a rhythm, you can actually tap it out on those dials. Because she put the microphones like close enough to them where it actually doubles as, you know, as that functionality. So, and what's cool about that is like, I wouldn't know, because I'm not as savvy as she is about the acoustic capabilities of these different microphones, right? But the microphone that she chose has, what makes it special?
It's got a high enough sound pressure level that it doesn't distort. So the TLDR of that is you can tap out a rhythm you have an idea about, even though if you don't know how to play drums, and it will actually take that and then build the drums, you know, set around that. Again, tying with the song you wrote. So those are little kind of like secret, you know, not secret, but kind of features that we want to add to really make it kind of magical and special. You know?
That's awesome.
Yeah. So really thinking through all the different parts of the hardware, you know, it's not just about this touch screen, but really making all of it work together and feel good and feel right.
All right, I was gonna say those are things you couldn't do if you guys went software only, for
That's
sure.
Right. Exactly.
So some of the questions real quick, we'll end here with some questions. So the first thing was, will the Lumos come with libraries or can they be added? And it sounds like your input, like you're using this as an instrument in its own right? Like you're adding those kinds of things. So does it have patches or libraries built in, or how does it work?
Yeah. So we actually will come with a small set of predefined sounds. It's got 2 audio inputs on it. So just like a sampler, you can record anything into it. It's like a mini DAW, but a very simple one. We don't ever intend to replace Logic or any of these other fancy DAWs. It is to get your songs finished, and then you can move them into a proper DAW. But it will have patches. You can upload new ones. You can record new ones. And then I've still got to confirm this, but there's a pretty exciting patch generation feature that I'm working on now, which theoretically you can play any sound into it and it can mirror back pretty closely the timbre of that sound or make it sound similar, but with the pitch change of the song continuing along, like the AI is trying to write it for you. So you can play a guitar piece that's distorted and it'll sound pretty much like that guitar. That's one of the features I'm really excited about. I've got to confirm that it will work as well as it does in my head, but I think it's possible with some of the latest features. So yes, very extendable from a sound standpoint.
Awesome. Yeah.
So inputs in though, and you can also like, so you could import sounds. Say you have like a Moog synthesizer that you love, you can import those sounds in as well.
Yep. You can plug in your headset too from your phone earbuds, and it'll read the microphone as well. So if you want to sing into it, and it has 2 built-in mics as well for speakerphone mics.
It sounds like you guys are gonna have a handful just making a video for this.
I know, we have to really shrink it down.
So the next question was just like, I guess different algorithms for different styles. Allie mentioned an example of adding a sad word. So I guess if that's like style or
this is where the machine learning piece comes in. There's some really cool research, very, very recent research being done around, it's in this umbrella research area called music information retrieval, which is to try to basically pull information out of music, a huge like tome of music. 20,000 songs are uploaded every day to Spotify. That's crazy. Wow. When you start thinking about trying to categorize that, that's really difficult. And then new subgenres emerge all the time. It's just a living, breathing organism. A lot of the machine learning work that we're working with and the libraries and the frameworks we're using have already done a lot of the heavy lifting on that can generalize certain types of songs. Everything from as simple as this is a minor key song, which is usually a more sad or introspective style music, generally. Some are happier that are more major, although many songs go major and minor in the middle of it. Many Beatles songs.
The Cardigan song.
So there's a whole bunch. So those rules are, generally they hold. But leveraging some aspects of some machine learning within the textual space, some of the listeners may be very familiar with a recent release of OpenAI's GPT model, which is this really kind of scary, kind of awesome tool that you can feed it a little bit of text and it will give you back a whole bunch more text that sounds like it was actually written by somebody. The one, I mean, people are like making whole like blog posts with this thing.
Yeah, Google it and read the blog post
Right.
it's created. You're like, I cannot believe that's not a real person.
It doesn't really say anything
Yeah.
deeply, but it reads like someone wrote it, maybe who was English as second language. But long story short is that's GPT-3. GPT-2 is something that we're exploring on, just actually helping someone, hey, I've got a lyric idea, but where should I go with it? Well, here's some ideas. And it'll be very basic, like a line or two extra. And that will also be topical. So if there was a sad comment or if there was a happy comment or first thread, it would continue that thread along that from a sentiment analysis standpoint.
Gotcha.
If that makes sense.
Wow.
Very cool.
So very, very smart.
Yeah.
Well, we're standing on the shoulders of giants.
Smart.
We didn't build this.
So
Yeah,
I'll
we're
say,
standing on the shoulders of giants. That's right.
That's amazing. Wow.
if anybody else has any questions, definitely look up Tonic Audio Labs at their website, tonicaudiolabs.com. Sign up for the newsletter. I'm sure you guys will have lots of FAQs and stuff for the Kickstarter. I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of music geeks that want to like get their hands on it. There was someone else asking about beta testers, so we'll let you guys reach out to Allie and Ethan and talk to them about that. But yeah, it sounds like an awesome project, and we're stoked to see it.
Well, we're so excited to be on this. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Yeah, and we have about 5 videos of deep dive like tech videos. So if you're really nerdy about it and you want to know why we chose the certain power supply that we chose, or why, just different reasons for how, why Allie's designed the hardware the way we have. Those will be up on our YouTube channel soon. So look out for those.
We have a Discord channel. It's just getting started. It's kind of quiet right now, but that's where we'll be doing a lot of the deeper discussions with people as well.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, we'll get links from you guys and post them all in the show notes. And thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
so
thank you guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you
Rachel,
guys so much.
What do we got next week?
Oh, next week. So the holidays are coming and everyone's supposed to be home for the holidays. I hope you 3 are as well. So we're going to do a fun holiday cocktail special. And our guest is going to help us make some cocktails at home. Colin's going to make a special one. And then I'm going to make one that has non-alcohol spirits. So 2 and 1. Yeah, so like a mocktail. So we're gonna try this out, but we're gonna like attempt to do it in the sort of my drunk kitchen. Like, you have to drink as you make. So we'll see how it goes.
It's gonna be a blast.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be really fun. So yeah, that's next week, next Wednesday, 5 o'clock.
Awesome.
Perfect. Thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll see you all next week, Wednesday at 5. Thanks everybody.
Thank you.